Welcome to episode number 165 of the Marine Layer podcast. We have a lot to catch up on from this Mariners-Yankees series. We'll react to that. We'll go down on the farm and take a look around the Mariners minor leagues as it's wrapping up for this 2024 season. We have a Russell Wilson Umpire of the Week, and we'll close out the show with Speak Your Mind.
This show is brought to you by our friends over at Pagacci's Pub 85. You guys know it's the best place to go hang out with your friends. You want to have some good food. You want to have some good drinks. You want to watch some games. Season's in the stretch run here. There's also college football and the NFL going on. I think this is the best time of the sports calendar, especially once October starts. We're right in that season. So if you need a spot to go watch all the games, head over there. And if you go during happy hour, there's awesome drink specials, 2 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. That's happy hour, and drinks are $3 and $4. All of that is over at Pagacci's Pub 85 in Kirkland. And here's your reminder. The best way you guys can support us is by downloading these podcast episodes. If you're listening, make sure to rate and review 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave us a comment. And on social media, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game is 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording on Thursday evening, September 19th. I thought you described it beautifully this week, Lyle. Watching this Yankees series, the reaction you put out today on social is fantastic. It's getting to the point of the season where we have to make ourselves have fun watching this baseball team. And the way you've described the mindset of how most Mariners fans' brains are going at this point of the season, the way to describe it, early onset Fleming, I thought was perfect. Now, would you like to describe to the masses what that is?
Sure. So, early onset Fleming is what you could call a diagnosable disease. I can't take all the credit for this. My brother is the one who's put this term out into the universe. Often he uses it toward me because of the way I'll often react to watching Mariner games. But it is essentially saying you are in the early stages of turning into Frank the Tank. You're not full Frank the Tank, but like we're seeing signs that you're going down that path. And me, maybe you can speak for yourself. A lot of Mariners fans, I think, are dealing with some early onset Fleming right now. Think about this. In that social post today that we put out where we did our reaction to the Mariners-Yankees series, which was totally off the rails today, by the way. That was honestly maybe one of my favorite ones I've ever recorded. The fact we have got a bunch of Mariners fans in the replies saying they would actually rather eat a double chunk chocolate cookie from Costco instead of have them make the playoffs is where we're at.
Well, cookie's only $2.50, right? $2.50 versus like relying on the Mariners to win their next 10 games in a row. I mean, is it like, for some people, that's not too tough a decision?
Well, I guess a double chunk chocolate cookie does bring you guaranteed happiness, where you have to bank on happiness for the Mariners to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, if the Mariners make the playoffs, the odds of happiness are, I would say right now, if they made it, which I haven't, what's the Fangraphs odds? Probably now 4%, maybe. Right now, I would say the Mariners, if they made the playoffs, would have a 6% chance, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, double chunk chocolate cookie, 100% happiness guarantee. We're not even including the rest of the Costco menu, which, by the way, some people skipped right past the double chunk chocolate cookie and went right to the chicken bake.
Yeah, they did. Again, it's a tough call, chicken bake or a double chunk chocolate cookie.
Now, were there any specific plays, Lyle, if I were to guess, in this series against the Yankees? I could only imagine which plays could have triggered something like that.
I'm trying to think if there's any that come to mind. It's tough to say any jump out right off the page. I mean, it was a pretty well-thought series, a lot of good, clean ball. Decision-making was on par. Yeah, nothing jumps out. I got to be honest.
Well, I think that Soto home run on Tuesday was a good start.
Oh, that was a good start. Reminding us about why he's actually worth $1 billion. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He was auditioning. He was proving in that moment, I can hit at T-Mobile Park.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing. Right after, he walked across the street visiting the box yard where he realized this place is going to be paying part of my salary in Seattle for next season. And then walking into the stadium and looking around and like, man, this would be a great place to play. That'd be a perfect fit here in Seattle. But for right now, I'm playing on a team that's playing for a playoff spot, and we're going to go win the first 2 games of this series and celebrate on the frickin' field and in the clubhouse. Wow, do you know it's been 3 years in a row now that a team has celebrated a postseason clinching appearance at T-Mobile Park? 3 years in a row. How exciting for the Mariners, right? Right? Exciting?
So you had the Yankees here in 2024. You had the Rangers do it in 2023. You had the Astros in the ALDS in 2022. Didn't the A's...
I wasn't even counting the postseason. I just meant the Mariners celebration.
Well, you can count the Astros too. I thought that's what you meant, is the Astros in the ALDS. But trying to think what else.
If that counts too, then it's 4.
Didn't the A's back in 2018 officially clinch in Seattle?
No, not in a row, though.
Yeah. Well, sad.
You could say it's Party Town, USA, right?
Yeah. All right. Sarcasm aside, do we need to just get to the elephant in the room here about a certain play or two that stood out in this series?
Yeah, I think Julio should not have gotten picked off third in Wednesday's game. It's not. I can't believe this is a hot take here. It was his fault.
Yeah. Here's what I said, and I'm going to double down on this. I of course, do not blame him for getting out of the way of a thrown bat. Of course, you don't want to get hit with a bat. Nor would anybody. It's frightening. Get out of the way, as he did. What on earth he was doing after that, I have no idea. I understand. I heard what he said in the post-game presser. I understand that he thought it meant the play was going to be dead, and he made a mistake, and that's why he was kind of walking toward the third base dugout. Why on earth would you assume that's a dead play? Why is that just the assumption? You have got to be thinking in that moment, get back to the base.
You think?
You have to.
You would think.
That game, you had to win that game. You had to. And all of a sudden, you've got guys on first and third, down a run with nobody out. And, you have got to be thinking there, get back to the base. You can't fall asleep there. You just can't.
Well, just thinking of where that game is, it's in the 10th inning, you're trailing by a run, you've already lost game 1, and you realize, as you said, this was an absolute must-win game. So, as the tying run, you need time needs to slow to essentially a stop. As you pick up on a drop of sweat falling off your face, or the pitcher twitching his left wrist. Literally all of these things. How hyper-focused you have to be, realizing what's at stake here. And not only did you just need to win the game, your season essentially on the line. As we talked about in Wednesday's episode, they needed a 10-2 stretch to finish the season to make the playoffs. That means they're going to have to win their next 9 games in a row to do that. They're going to need to sweep the final 3 series of the season to achieve that mark because of what happened on Wednesday, not allowing any buffer for the rest of your schedule, which stinks. So then to have a mental lapse like that in that big of a moment, it can't happen. It's excusable in 4, probably 5 out of the 6 months of the MLB season. But not in September, not when the team has played the way it has and has been put in the position it currently is trying to make the playoffs. It can't happen. In a year that has been among the most frustrating in Mariners history and frustrating for us as fans to have to deal with, to have sort of a fitting end to the season like that because of a mental lapse on the base paths where it's essentially just wrongly assuming the play. Just a complete wrong assumption. It's awful. And I don't know how you can't blame him. He jumps out of the way, sure, but nothing is stopping you from jumping away from the bat and then running right back to the base. Turning and running right back to the base.
Because it wasn't like yeah, because it wasn't like he was just standing in the spot where he eventually jumped out of the way to when the bat was thrown. Again, like it would almost look like he was walking toward the third base dugout. Like, again, it was a total assumption that the play was dead, and it just can't happen in that situation. And you know what? Like, for as talented as Julio is, and as great of a glove as he is, and as much as he's started to turn things around a little bit here in the month of September, he has made some real mistakes on the base paths this year. And like, you think back to that game where he was given a day off early in April against the Cubs. He comes in the ninth inning for 60 seconds, gets picked off at first base to end the game. You had this one against the Yankees. There's been a couple others throughout the year. There has just been some things he has done on the base paths that cannot happen.
You know why I love our comment section? Because we'll see just sometimes it gets taken too far. Because we're sitting here frustrated, right? Some people took what happened on Wednesday, and bless you guys. I mean, you guys can think whatever you want. And when we put out our clip on Thursday morning about which pitcher, hypothetically, if you had to trade a pitcher for a bat, which one you'd be traded, I was almost disappointed with the amount of trade suggestions that said trade Julio with them. Yeah, almost disappointed. Yeah, but there's enough people out there with independent ideas where I can't be too shocked at that. Let's make something clear. Julio's not getting traded because he got picked off at third. What does need to happen is that he is way too talented to be as bad of a base runner as he is. Go look at the grades, base running wise. It's not good. He's too fast. He's too physical. He's too quick for him to be a poor base runner. Like, something's got to change. You know how Cal Raleigh went to Brian Wu this season when he was struggling to get through 5 innings and said, dude, you're a big leaguer. Pick it up. And what did Wu do? Oh, he's had like the best outside of that start against the Yankees where he got absolutely shelled. Did not look like a Game 3 starter, by the way, Lyle. But then outside of that start, he's been amazing in the second half. Pitched almost as many innings as anyone in baseball in that stretch, which is fantastic. So someone like Julio's got to do that on the base paths. Pick it up, dude. Head up. Let's go.
And while we're on the topic, Randy is not Randy is in this circle of blame here too. How many times can you chuck a bat throughout a season? Like, he needs sticky stuff or pine tar or something on his bat, on his hands. If he has pine tar on his bat already, he needs more of it, because how can this happen so many times? This is by far not the first time this has happened. Like, keep the bat in your hands. It was a bad at bat to begin with, but then as bad as the decision was by Julio to not be aware enough in that situation to get back to the base, it doesn't happen if Randy doesn't chuck the bat. Hold the bat.
I feel like that's more of a minor part. I think people are going to look at Julio Rodriguez more. Randy's is more of a safety thing as opposed to a baseball thing, I will say. Randy probably shouldn't be throwing his bat because he's going to hurt somebody, and exactly why Julio had to get out of the way in the first place. So you could say that is the reason for it to all tie in. Like, what if Randy's bat flies into the stands?
And that's happened. That has happened this year.
Which it should not it should not happen. And Randy's enough of a pro where, that should not happen. But this really, Lyle, sort of just paints a big picture of this Yankees series. Yeah, the Yankees, I think technically right now, still have the best record in the American League, and they're going to be playing for it with the Guardians down the stretch run of the season. Yeah, they're good. The Mariners are the best pitcher on the mound in each game in the series. You knew you had to win this series. You're playing at home where you pitched so well this season. And to come out and lose this series, you can tell me how much it matters playing 162 games, and that's why you need to play baseball. But unfortunately, the Mariners don't get that luxury here in September with how disappointing they've been this season to get to this point and realize, okay, well, we have to win a series, and then you just get absolutely clobbered in game one. Uncompetitive.
So,
and then
yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, and that's the main storyline here. We can talk about Julio all we want. Yes, it was a poor base running decision. We can talk about Randy all we want. Yes, he needs to hold on to the bat. But that's the real story here. The 2 games they lost, like, even though those plays happened, and it's incredibly frustrating that they did, in game 1, oh, by the way, so add in the Victor Robles play at the plate, too. It's frustrating. As frustrating as that was,
we're talking about, Lyle, if we're talking about decisions, that was the worst one.
I'm going to put Julio's ahead of Robles's.
Well, Julio's was a worse result, not a decision, like a physical decision.
But, like, okay, do you say being aggressive is worse than essentially falling asleep at the wheel?
No, I just think they're different because Robles made a concerned effort to sprint off the base. Julio did because of the bat.
Okay. Anyway. Here's the point.
Both bad.
Here's the point. That was a bad decision by Robles in game 1. Didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because the Mariners lost by 9 runs. Yes, the Julio base running decision was not a good one, and Randy throwing the bat did not help. But guess what? You scored 1 run. Like, the Mariners offense we've gotten to know and despise all year, that it all of a sudden started to take a hiatus in September and look like things are starting to turn around. Oh, they were back. They were back in a big way on Wednesday, and I guess on Tuesday too, because they only scored 2 runs. That's the main story. You could not hit with runners in scoring position in either game. You scored 2 runs on Tuesday. You scored 1 run in 10 innings on Monday, and you couldn't drive anybody in. By the way, like, in spite of that Julio play happening, which turned into a double play, Justin Turner struck out on a fastball down the middle to end that game. So there wasn't even a ball put in play that would have given Julio the opportunity to score in the 10th and tie that game. And for all we know, with 2 outs in that situation after the hypothetical Turner at bat, they may just not score and get out anyway. So, like, that's the real story. They couldn't hit yet again. They won the finale. They salvaged the series, I guess, but they still only scored 3 runs. Yeah.
After we gave them some praise for hitting well under Edgar.
Yeah. Oh,
Edgar,
by the way,
is Edgar going to get thrown under the bus for a bad offensive week too?
Yeah, let's get to that in about 10 seconds here. The last thing I was going to say is just to put a capper on all the base running stuff this week between Robles, between Julio. It's not really going to get talked about because the Mariners did win today, but the Mariners made another terrible base running decision in the finale. When Dylan Moore was on second base late in the game, there's a ball hit to shortstop on the ground, and he runs to 30, easy toss over to 30, gets thrown out. Like, that one's not going to get talked about as much, but it was 3 days in a row with another really bad base running decision. Yeah. Anyway, you can get back to your point, Edgar.
Well, yeah, it's almost like, you know, Edgar can bring all the expertise he wants offensively, but it's still the same players on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Edgar can't change the players on his roster. He's the hitting coach. He gives tips. He's giving an idea of an approach, which players say resonate. Great. But it doesn't mean it's working every night, unfortunately. And in the biggest series of the season, falls flat. Yeah. Like, just like it would have if Jarrett DeHart and Scott Service were here. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Yeah, and so I'm going to sort of steal, like, on your guys' shit on Brock and Salk this morning. Salk, I thought, made a fantastic point that I'd like to sort of bring here and throw it out here. I agreed with this 100% and is right in line with stuff you and I have talked about over the last month. And Salk was very frustrated on Thursday's show about a number of things, you know, talking about Julio and all this stuff, but some of it boiled back to, it's like looking at like some of the Mariners' decision from the ownership when they decided to let Scott Service go and Jarrett DeHart go as an attempt to make the playoffs. And as we're looking right now, Lyle, those odds of making the playoffs are almost 0, to where the decision they made for these to put Dan Wilson in there and to put Edgar Martinez in there has essentially made no difference in that, and doesn't reflect very good on the organization trying to save face in a season where they failed to save face, because it's not going to work. Well, we're sitting here in September, and Scott Service and Dan Wilson are going to have the same amount of playoff appearances in this 2024 season. It's going to be 0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're 100% right. And let me double down on what Salk said too. This is the problem with how the fan base is currently wired to think right now. There is a ton of hypocrisy going on. There's a ton of double standards going on. And it's such an eye roll in terms of people praise Dan and praise Edgar beyond belief when they're winning. But all of a sudden when they lose, while Scott would get put under the fire, people aren't saying anything. I'm now grabbing my mic and holding it. I am speaking directly to every single person that has ever been in our comments, on YouTube, on social media, thinking it when you're listening to the podcast, or just had your own opinion about it, period, that would often say fire Scott about things that often were very much not his fault. I'm now speaking directly to you. I want you to think long and hard about this. Last Thursday, the Mariners had a 3-run lead on the Rangers, and they blew it. Bullpen blew it late. I seem to recall what people would often get the most mad about at Scott's service was bullpen management, which, by the way, isn't a manager's decision. It's still not Dan Wilson's decision. It is made by the front office. The manager just deploys it. I hope we have hit that home enough on this podcast. Anyway, when the Mariners blew that game, I didn't happen to see a lot of discourse about Dan Wilson can't manage a bullpen and what is Dan Wilson doing and like why would he push these buttons and make these decisions? Do you know what all you would have been saying that were anti-Scott Service if that was Service's managed game had they blown that against the Rangers? You would have gone to the depths of the earth to say why he can't manage a bullpen. Now, why is it any different with Dan Wilson? And we like Dan Wilson. Like the organization really likes Dan Wilson. This isn't even about him. It's not. He's an awesome dude. This is about the total hypocrisy that's going on in this fan base right now that aren't holding the two groups to the same standard. Again, did you say anything when the Mariners blew that game against the Rangers with Dan Wilson managing the team? Because they blew it. They blew it badly. I didn't see a lot of discourse about it. I'm going to be honest.
Well, my comments were more about the team itself, which is whether it's Scott Service or Dan Wilson at the helm, blowing games throughout the second half. Hasn't mattered who's been the manager. First of all the decisions are, like you said, essentially the same. Dan's decisions aren't that much different. The blown leads with Dan and the blown leads with Scott, which a lot of the Scott, the over that last road trip, they blew quite a few leads.
Mm-hmm.
Which certainly helped him get fired, but it's the same players. It will always boil back to the players that the managers have to put out there.
But does my point make sense? Again,
yes, it does.
Did you see any discourse on that Thursday against the Rangers when they blew it?
No, I did not. I did not see any fired Dan Wilsons. No.
And if your argument is he's new to the job, again, this is another point Salk made on the show that I'll take from it. Well, Dan Wilson was hired because they believe this is the guy to get this team to the playoffs. And I'm sorry, if that's your view, if Dan Wilson was the interim manager right now, this would be viewed a whole lot differently. We would not be having this discourse. He's not. He was made the full-time manager because the Mariners had the full belief this is who's taking us to the playoffs. So if that's your belief, I'm sorry, you don't get a learning curve as a new manager. You don't get a learning curve with a month left in the season when you have to win games because you are the guy that the organization said, this is our guy. This is who's getting us to the playoffs. And then the team blows the lead the exact same way they would have blown it with Scott Service. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is pretty ridiculous. And I thought that was the best point Salk made.
Mm-hmm.
Really. You do not get the new manager excuse as a full-time manager. Not in September.
No.
Because you know when new managers usually make their mistakes? In April. And if the Mariners operated with an ounce of common sense, like Ryan Divish said they lacked throughout the process, if Dan Wilson was made the full-time manager this offseason and he made some mistakes in April, can't always make people be happy, but it would work themselves out over the 162 games of the 2025 season. Guess what? Mariners are trying to make the playoffs. They are screaming down a path of, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most disappointing, embarrassing seasons in franchise history. From what you have put out there on the mound, the fact that you've gotten to this point and you're not, like, odds are you're not making the playoffs. It's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. You want to know something really funny? You know something funny? Mariners having an above average offense by WRC plus now. think that's funny?
Yeah. No, I don't think it's funny.
I'm
pissed off
actually kind of laughing at it right now.
Fine, now I'm laughing.
Anyways, yeah.
But okay, we're
nice
big
job,
WRC.
guys.
I'm just saying, we're big WRC plus guys and always will be. However, in this situation, maybe I'm actually going to sound like a boomer here, but does that not feel a little misleading? We know this offense is not good. It's not average. We know that.
It's because it's park adjusted.
I know.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So again, I want to make this clear. We really like Dan Wilson, and we think there is absolutely a chance he can be a very good manager. This isn't about him. Certainly not about him as a person, because he is beloved for a reason. We very, very much like him. And it's not even really about what he's like. Again, it's not really about his tenure as a manager so far. This is about the decision that the people well above him made to make this happen. It's the organizational mindset, blueprint, philosophy that's pissing me off. And a lot of people off, for that matter. It's that's what it is here. I hope I can make that clear. This isn't about Dan Wilson himself. It's about people higher up than that.
Are you saying the Mariners piss you off, Lyle? Is that what you're saying?
No. In my 26 years of being a fan, they've never pissed me off. I'm actually grateful that they've made the playoffs one time in 22 years.
You know what's actually the most annoying part of this week, besides the fact the Mariners lost 2 of 3 games to the Yankees? They gained ground in the playoff chase. Could you imagine if they played well this series? They gained a half a game in the wild card this week and didn't lose any ground in the division.
Yeah, so in that scenario, if you win that game Wednesday, then you're, by the standings and what they say on paper, 1 game out of the last spot. We know it's really 2 because you don't have the tiebreaker over the Twins, but you're 2 games out. The wild card's a very real possibility still. Now it's gone.
3.5 out of the division.
Right. Your only chance at this point. I'm basically done with the wild card. Unless something drastic happens, it's done. Your only chance is, we've said, be within 3 games of Houston. So find a way to make up a couple games before that series starts, or even be within 4. And if you sweep them, then you go into the final weekend a game back with the tiebreaker. Yes, there's obviously still a chance in that scenario, but you got to be at least within 4. And that is to even give yourselves a chance. On paper, that's your only chance. Does anybody sitting here think the Mariners are going into Houston and sweeping the Astros?
Nope.
So you will have to, you're going to have to drink some of Michael's secret stuff from Space Jam and play your 3 best games of the season against the Astros in a park that's haunted you for years if you want to still give yourselves a chance. That is your only chance. You have to play your 3 cleanest games of the whole year.
And what Lyle mentions with the wild card, it's not the factor of catching the Twins. The Twins very well might be caught. The Twins are awful right now. They're terrible. They lost 3 of 4 to the Guardians this week. The Mariners are not making up 3 games on the Tigers between now and the end of the season. That is not happening. Tigers could beat anyone right now, down the stretch. Easily beat anyone. Royals play extremely well at home, Lyle, all year. They have one of the top 2 MVP candidates in the American League. They swept. They're now tied for the 3rd wild card, and they get to finish the season with the White Sox. You're not catching them. The only chance is playing the Astros, but the Astros are the best team in the American League.
Yeah, I mean the Tigers.
So they are the best team in the American League. You just played the 2nd best team in the American League, and we clearly saw how the Mariners stack up with a team like that.
So the Tigers do play the Orioles this weekend. We'll see how that goes. But
doesn't matter. They'll probably win 2 or 3.
I don't know how the Tigers are doing this. Again, they have 1 pitcher and 2 bats. I don't know how they're doing this.
And yet they have they were 8 games under on August 10th.
I don't get it. It's crazy.
Sometimes they're not answers. Like that Julio play. That's something that has never happened in baseball before.
Mm-hmm.
A double. It's, what is it? The tying run on 3rd with no outs, and 2 batters later the game ends. Like, that's never happened.
Do you want me to read the stat?
What is what's the exact stat?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, we talked about it earlier, so let me find it. Yeah, this is from OptaStats on Twitter. They tweeted out that the Mariners are the only MLB team in the last 50 years to have the tying run on 3rd with nobody out in the 9th inning or later, only to lose the game in the space of 2 batters without putting the ball in play and without trying to steal. Wow.
Now, how many franchises could achieve that?
One?
Oh, yeah, one. Yeah. It's just the same one who's never been to a World Series.
Mm-hmm.
What a week. Look at this.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell. Like, is there anything else to talk about with this series, about upcoming with Texas? Is there anything to get to with that?
Yeah, win your next 9. That's it. That's the only chance.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. If they lose a game this weekend in Texas, it's over.
That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, obviously we're going to do some other things in the show, like go down on the farm and do a Russell Wilson Umpire of the Week and speak your mind. However, there's something else we need to get to. Because just to add fuel to the fire here, and spoiler, I'm about to start venting, like at a pretty high decibel level.
I'll mute my mic and just let you go.
Okay. No, I want to have a back and forth. Just at some point I'm just going to start going here, I'm sure. And maybe you think to yourselves, well, Lyle, you and TJ have both been pretty animated in the first half hour of the show. Yeah, that's correct. But I'm about to take it to another level here. So Shohei just went 50-50. He now is a 50-50 guy. Actually, he's a 51-51 guy now. He has 50 homers, 50 stolen bases. He is the first player in the history of baseball to do that. I really wish, you guys, I really do, I could just sit here and marvel in wholehearted, genuine baseball fandom about how cool that is, how amazing that is, how fascinating Shohei is as a player, because he is. He is the greatest player in my mind to ever live, and he is one of the best things to ever happen to the game of baseball. But I just cannot. We're transparent on this podcast. You guys know that. When we have the opportunities to be positive, we like to be positive, but we don't hide what our feelings are either. We hope that's a way we can connect with you guys when we do these. We're very transparent about what our feelings are. And I'm sorry, but I cannot bring myself to appreciate what he has done in this moment. Maybe later on I will. Maybe in a couple weeks I will. But I cannot in this moment, because the only place my mind goes to is how feebly and putridly the Mariners handled that entire free agency saga with him. It just, like, that's the only place my mind goes. You totally fucking fumbled that bag. And some of you are going to say, Lyle, it's like 10 months later. How are you still on this? I don't care. I don't care. You guys totally balked at the money at the greatest player to ever play this game because you looked the fans right in the eyes. This is what they said. This is what they said by not even attempting to sign Shohei Ohtani back in the winter. I don't care about the RSN stuff either, by the way. I don't care at all. By not even attempting to give him an offer, you looked every fan, us included, right in the face and said, he's not worth it. Well, I see the Dodgers making more money than just about every team in baseball. Fans sell out almost every game. Shohei's had one of the greatest seasons a hitter's ever had. They're racking in money. And you think this Mariners offense couldn't use that guy right now? They couldn't use that guy? Don't give me their 100 WRC plus thing. This has been one of the most embarrassing offenses we've watched in our entire lives compared to where the expectation was. And again, I don't freak out about every free agent. But you had not even generational. You had the greatest player to ever live in free agency this winter. And they totally punted. They totally looked everybody in the face and said, yep, he's not worth it. He's not worth our time or our money. And I don't care what type of offer they say they made him. Because it clearly, I can tell I'm really going on here, but okay, whatever. They clearly didn't care. Because if you were to say you offered him $300 million when you knew his starting price started with a 5 and got all the way up to 7, that's like being at an auction for a house that costs $3.5 million. Bidding starts at $1 million, but you try to raise your hand up as the bidder's like, and 1.1 million, and a 1.2 in the back, 1.2, can we get a 1.4, 1.4? You hold up your sign and you say, $500,000. No, that's not an effort. Again, I'm sure some of you are going to be like, why are you still on this? Because we've watched this offense all year. They need bats beyond belief, and you didn't even try with the greatest player to ever live. You didn't even try. And it's still pissing me off to this day. I don't get over these things, people. I really don't. I don't get over these things. I'll probably still be pissed about it 20 years from now. So, I'm still mad they didn't sign him the first time after 2017. Yeah, I don't get over these things. Oh my God. Yeah. So if the Mariners had honestly won Wednesday's game, I don't even know if I'd be sitting here reacting like this. We're at the point where I'm so emotional. I'm so tied into the season. It's just absolutely bogged me down. And now on the same day that things are, the same 24 hours that things feel like they're coming to an end, this happens too. And it just gave me all these war flashbacks to 10 months ago when I was fuming about it. Wow. As I'll turn the mic back to you now, man, I feel like that White Sox caller, because I went on about that for a bit. I feel like that White Sox caller that just went on for like 8 minutes straight right there. I didn't go that long, but
I think that was about 3 minutes.
All right, good.
That's pretty good.
I had to get that off my chest here. I'm not getting over that.
I don't know what else I actually have to add besides the fact is what hurts the most is knowing the Mariners will never get another opportunity like that. That's once in a Major League Baseball time that any franchise is going to get to do that. Like, what stars like that actually hit free agency, if you think about it?
Actually, I have another. Juan Soto this winter would say we'll also not try for.
Well, that's a whole separate conversation. Yes, but yes, the idea is the exact same. Yes, will they offer fair market value for Juan Soto? Probably not. Most likely not. Nothing's impossible, but we're pretty certain that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? I'm pretty certain when Juan Soto asks for 5, what they would be comfortable with starts with 2. And that's just not happening.
No.
So, and that's unfortunate. But sitting here and thinking like just Mariners history and what has happened to this franchise. Think of the greatest free agent in this franchise's history, right? Alex Rodriguez got blown away.
He wasn't a free agent. He wasn't a free agent.
Alex Rodriguez was a free agent.
Oh, but the Mariners didn't sign him as a free agent.
No, they didn't. They didn't sign him. He left as a free agent. Why was that?
Money.
Different market back then. Rangers, I think, what did they, double the previous high of salary? Yeah, they overpaid. It was worth it.
Yeah.
It's like what the Dodgers did with Shohei. The Rangers in 2001 realized what Alex Rodriguez was worth and went well above and beyond to make sure it happened. Percentage-wise, I don't have it written down what the comparison is for Shohei's $700 million contract versus what's the previous high? Is it Bryce's total? Bryce got 330.
Somebody's made more. Garrett Cole? No, because Garrett Cole's, 325?
Yeah, his is short. I'm talking about total money.
Trout? 435?
Total. Yeah, okay. So let's use that number. I think that's it. Tatis was
340-ish?
Yeah. So let's use the Trout number. 400. Shohei's is almost double that.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball teams are still willing to do that for the right players. Now, the Rangers' investment turned out okay. They did all right. Signed him to that contract when he won an MVP when he was in Texas. 2 MVPs. Anyways, he was amazing. He was amazing, worth every single penny the Rangers paid for him. They didn't put any good players around him, but then they traded him to the Yankees, got some good players back. Things worked out for the franchise. Look, Rangers have won a World Series since then.
Was he? Yeah. Well, because the Rangers spent more money. Well, was A-Rod? I don't think A-Rod was traded to the Yankees, was he? I thought he just signed to free agency.
That's how Soriano got to the Rangers.
You're right.
And then A-Rod opted out and then re-signed with the Yankees.
Yeah.
If I have that right. But anyway, so that's like a similar scenario, right? Kind of. They're different players. When it comes to generational players hitting the market that the Mariners have an ability to get, those are the two. Who else?
There's not, again, you have back-to-back years with generational players in free agency, and there's not going to be.
But it's not only generational players, because you brought up the point. I'm not crazy about every free agent. Was Trey Turner coming here? I mean, he's an East Coast guy.
No,
probably not. Was Bryce Harper coming here?
Yeah,
probably not. I would have loved Bryce, but he's probably not coming to Seattle. Doesn't want to trek all the way up here. The two guys that were absolutely interested in coming here, those otherworldly generational guys, Alex Rodriguez and Shohei Ohtani. Push comes to shove, the money wasn't there.
Yeah. And again, the Soto thing's different too, because he may be an East Coast guy. There's also a sense out there that Scott Boras doesn't love the Mariners and doesn't love making deals with the Mariners. So that is a thing. And it still drives me crazy, but that's still a thing. But yeah, all the more reason the Shohei one is I'm never going to get over. He was very clearly interested the first time. He is not a Scott Boras guy. He is a West Coast guy. So Seattle has a ton of ties to Japan, and Ichiro is here. Like, I mean, you know what? I don't even care about that stuff because that's all secondary to the money. Offer him the money. Like, dude, like, again, I'm legitimately never going to get over this. Like, the fact you didn't even try is, there was some other point I wanted to make here with this, but like, that's like with the Mariners have ended up getting him in the end. We don't know that. It may not have been. It may have always been the Dodgers because they're the best run franchise in baseball. But the point is, you know what the Blue Jays did? They tried. They genuinely tried. And Blue Jays fans can be mad at Shohei or whoever all they want that they didn't get it done.
John Morosi.
They tried. Yeah, John Morosi. They tried. Mariners didn't try. All the reports were they balked at the money. And with a player like that would have made you more money on that contract than you could have ever hoped for, way more money than you would have ever paid him, you still say
biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. A franchise that runs on business acumen. Making money's fine. Just not see a clear winning investment. It stinks. And they're never going to get a chance to rectify that again. Like, again, it's players that are okay playing in Seattle. The dude spends his off seasons in Seattle training. Who does that?
Other guys that drive line, I guess, but
that's it. But not like, do most of those guys actually love staying in the off season in Seattle?
I don't know.
Well,
Seattle's a nice city, but
it is, but not everyone's cup of tea. Not during the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Stinks. And it just gets rubbed in more and more and more. And Shohei, while he gets his 50-50, did something that no one has ever done. Just leaving the thing out there that it's like, wow. Think the Dodgers are happy they did that? Like, look at this guy. He literally, as a bat, hit his 100th percentile in the first year you sign him.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, next year he goes back to pitching too. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, the Mariners still have problems at DH, which is where he would have played. So, like, I'm never going to get over it, dude. Like, I don't know how many times I can hit that home. I will legitimately never get over either time the Mariners didn't sign him, but especially the second time when, again, it was very clear they didn't even try. Like,
dude, I don't know how we're going to make it through this offseason.
And I'm not looking forward to it. I'm really not. As much as everybody wants kind of their break from baseball and to just reset and relax when this season ends because it's been hard on a lot of people, like, the way everything's going with all this root sports stuff, it feels like we're going to be put right back in the ringer this offseason because I don't know where this money's coming from. They should spend regardless, but I don't know where this money's coming from. I hope they prove us wrong. These, like, again, people build their lives around this team, and they don't deserve everything that continues to go on with this franchise, and yet we get the brunt of it anyway. Yeah. Go out and make your team better this winter. That's like, you posted your clip today about us talking about the potential of trading a pitcher, and you were making points, and I'm not saying they're wrong, there's real validity to it, about the Mariners being able to save money by trading a pitcher. It shouldn't be your narrative if you're going to do it. If you're going to do it, you have to believe it's because Juan Soto, Alex Bregman, Anthony Santander, etc., even if you overpay, will not sign here. Like, you'd have to essentially double every team's offer for them to sign here, and you think the only way you're getting a bat is to trade. Well, if that's the case, your optic should be to get the best bat possible, not to save money. So if you go trade Luis this winter, eat his contract. Get real bats back. Don't salary dump. Like, yeah, you can see I'm already gearing up for off-season mode because I'm not ready for it.
Let me end it on this note. The goal is to get better, not to save money. That is the goal. They should be trying to get better. It should be looking at what will be probably an 84-win season and saying, that's not good enough. Instead of ending the season last year with a playoff failure and saying, oh, I thought we were actually pretty good. Well, obviously not.
We're not getting a press conference this year.
No chance we're getting a press. If there is a press conference, it's going to be over Zoom, after they fired Scott.
Yeah,
there's no real press conference now. They they're not letting Jerry sit in front of a microphone and answer questions for 30 minutes. Not after all this garbage that has gone through with all the and then all the television network stuff on top of that. It's never happening. No, it's not. I hope so. This podcast really hopes there's a press conference. But I don't think we're getting one.
Would we?
Do you want to talk about something positive?
Okay, can I get 30 seconds?
Have you got all your... all right, last bit of negativity out. Go.
If there was a press conference, would we perk up and ask a question? We might need to. If there was hypothetically one. I have one in mind.
Want to ask? Yeah, what would you ask?
I would say, last year sitting in this press conference, you talked about how payroll will go up in 2024, and it did. Will it go up again in 2025? That's my question.
Very reasonable question. I think you and 5 others would ask that.
Oh, well, nobody...
It would be in the first, 3 questions whether or not payroll is going to go up. But Jerry's not going to give you he's going to give you a technicality. He's going to say yes in a technicality that it goes up, just like in a technicality from last year it went up. $5 million?
Yeah. They so terribly handled the Ohtani sweepstakes.
Just like they said,
terribly.
Technically, we will be active in free agency.
Yes.
Signing Mitch Garver. It's like, woo. So exciting.
Like the fact you couldn't sign Rhys Hoskins and Mitch Garver, who both didn't get that much. Like, you made one move for offense in free agency. One. And
instead decided to pay Ty France, who you cut. Now he's doing very well in Cincinnati.
God, yeah. They so terribly handled the Shohei sweepstakes. They did. Anyway, let's move on.
Before I get to this read, just give me the line one more time. Ready?
What is it?
How many franchises does this happen?
Oh, sorry. Only one franchise.
Oh, there we go. Before we go down on the farm, let's hear a word from Game Time. There's only barely over a week left in the baseball season. If you're looking to get out to T-Mobile Park one last time, let Game Time help you get there with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. A week from now is the final series of the regular season against the A's. Yes, you actually have a chance to see the last ever series for the Oakland Athletics. It's $14 to go on Friday, $19 on Saturday, and $20 on Sunday. Looking for something this weekend? Well, the Seahawks are back in town for Week 3 against the Dolphins, and tickets start at $145 on the Game Time app. Get a panoramic view of your seat and toggle the all-in pricing feature so you know how much you're paying and what the view is before you buy. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code JUSTBASEBALL, JUSTBASEBALL, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Let's go down on the farm. Seems like the only positive news from this week, Lyle, is that we got somewhat of an update for Jurrangelo Cijntje. He was hanging out with the Arkansas Travelers this week as they're in the Texas League playoffs. Arkansas did lose Game 2 today. They'll play Game 3 when this podcast comes out on Friday tomorrow.
Flip it around. They won Game 2. Lost
Game 1. Won Game 2. We'll play Game 3 tomorrow or when this podcast comes out on Friday. Now, Jurrangelo's not going to play with the Travs this year. They're not going to activate him. Logan Evans is starting tomorrow in Game 3. Shout out our guy Logan. But what does this say about this move that he's there right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I got pretty excited when I saw his Instagram video because when I saw he was at Dickey Stevens Park in Arkansas, I was like, oh, no way. I thought maybe they were going to let him throw a couple innings in the Texas League playoffs and that would be his professional debut. Now, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. He's still not on the active roster. Logan Evans is slated to start the third game. So it seems like maybe he's just there to hang out. That being said, the fact that he's there, while we'd love to see him pitch this year, when we see him debut next season, is he just going to start in Arkansas?
I don't think it's the craziest thing ever because think of where he played his college ball. I think it's a little easier for SEC arms to jump straight to AA than it is for any other conference. Maybe ACC too, but SEC is the best baseball conference. the level of baseball they play in that conference is, I don't know, it's roughly minor league baseball based off of some of the athletes you're playing against, you're pitching against, and some of those environments. So it allows you to be as advanced, as polished as of a player coming out of the draft. It's not the same for everyone. Paul Skeens is certainly a unicorn. He had the build. Durangelo's not quite built like a tank like Paul Skeens is, but I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world to put him in Double-A. Is it the safer option to put him in Everett for 5, 6, 7, 8 starts to start next year? Sure. But if, the Mariners sat down there in Arizona when he's acclimating to pro ball and throwing on the backfields and lifting and all that stuff down there, like they see his stuff and they see his command. If he's good to go in Arkansas, they certainly know it. And by the way, that rotation now, if they're going to put him in there, holy crap. Holy crap.
Oh, for next year, you mean?
Yeah, the Travs. I mean, we're talking Logan Evans, Brandon Garcia, Michael Morales, who have all been studs this year, and you're putting your first-round pick in there, too? Holy moly.
Yeah, and then what's the other kid's name that just won the ERA title? He's not like a huge prospect, but Danny Warchansky. He just won the ERA title, I'm pretty sure. Wow. So... And I'm pretty sure he's a starter. I think I have that right. So that's a pretty good rotation.
Well, while you checked out, I mean, we're talking like legit pro prospects there. 4 of them in Arkansas. And that's exciting. I think it's really cool for Durangelo. Now, will he advance beyond Double-A next year? I'm guessing if they start him in Double-A, he's pitching the whole season there. Unless he rolls out and he's got like a .7 ERA with a 33% strikeout rate. Unlikely. But if he does, by some chance, then he could see the big leagues next year. But I think next year is going to be a full Arkansas year for Durangelo St. John. It just makes the most sense. There's no reason to rush him. He'll be 22 next year when he's pitching there. You pitch him his whole 22 season there, and then by age 23, he's close at that point. And you have other guys in Double-A that will be a little farther along, more seasoned in pro ball, who if the Mariners need a start from one of those Double-A guys instead of Emerson Hancock. You have the Logan Evans, the Brandon Garcia. Michael Morales could be ready by that point next year. I mean, what a 365-day turn for Michael Morales. I mean, seriously, we're talking about this dude being close to the big leagues based on where he was at this point last year is insane. So shout out to him. But just a crazy rotation in Arkansas. It's got to feel to make the Mariners very confident again in their ability to replenish this farm system. And then on top of that, and I hate to bring up this point, but makes them confident in trading a starter.
Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, so I checked. Warchansky is a starter. So he made 27 appearances, 17 starts. So he was pitching in bulk plenty. Yeah, 2.84 ERA for the year. That's another guy in the rotation. So if next year it's him, Logan Evans, Brandon Garcia, Michael Morales, Durangelo, that's a pretty sick rotation. And honestly, to that point, Logan was a 12th rounder out of Pitt, didn't have great college numbers, looked so good in the spring, and the numbers, like all the analytics and all this stuff just popped off the charts so much. They said, okay, you're going right to Arkansas. And he spent the whole year there. Now, I know he threw a few innings with Modesto last year, but that's, it's a pretty small sample. Throwing, 10 innings versus no innings in Modesto, I don't know how much difference that really makes for a pitcher's development in general. So, yeah, if you're doing that with a 12th rounder, if Durangelo's really that ready and developed in advance, sure, he can start in Arkansas next year.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting stuff in this farm system. So the ability to replenish arms, I think, should not be underestimated. A lot of the strays we spent the first 40 or so minutes of this podcast throwing the Mariners' way, I think a lot of those could go right to Jerry Dipoto. But if you want to go back on the positive side, this right here, what we're talking about, those 5 guys in the Mariners' current starting rotation, and those 5 guys in the Arkansas rotation that are on the next step to the big leagues, it's pretty impressive. It's hard to match. There are not really any other teams that can do this.
Yeah. No, it's not.
We're stuck right in the middle of these just 2 extreme frustration and joy points.
Right. Man, again, I hope the Mariners somehow, some way get fortunate enough next season where they barely have any injuries in their rotation again. It feels unlikely, but I would love to see it happen again. However, if it doesn't and you need guys, you're not going to be short on guys because you already have Emerson. And if for some reason you need somebody past Emerson to make some starts too, pick your poison down in AA. It's probably not going to be Durangelo that early, but you've got everybody else right in front of you. So pretty cool.
Wasn't that long ago where I remember checking in on Jack Z's players in the minors, and they were never very good.
Right. And now again, if you need rotational depth next year, you got Emerson, you got Logan Evans, you got Brandon Garcia, you've got Michael Morales potentially. We'll see what they think of Warchansky potentially, but yeah, it's a lot of pitching, which is pretty fun.
I want to give a shout out to our guy Laz too. He won the Cal League MVP, even though he missed the last 2 months of the season. It's pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive.
Shows you what kind of season he had down there in Modesto, and really how good he was. And also shout out to the Nuts, who won back-to-back Cal League championships.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Ty Pete's been a part of 2 Cal League championships. It's cool.
Wow,
pretty cool. Yeah, like because you know he was on the team last year after he got drafted and they won it. Then he was in Modesto again all year this year and they won it. Pretty cool.
Where does that put Ty Pete in the GOAT conversation?
Yeah, Modesto goats. Maybe he'll get a statue. I'm here for it. I'd be here
Next
for
time
it.
we have him on, we'll pitch that idea to him.
Yeah, I'm down. Yeah, and by the way, when you say Laz missed the last 2 months in Modesto, by missed it, the reason he missed it, quote unquote, is he got promoted. Yeah. So, pretty cool.
It's a pretty cool accomplishment. All right, let's get to our Russell Wilson Umpire of the Week. Man, this was a first, and we're talking about first in Major League Baseball. Brennan Miller ejected Jose Altuve because he showed him his foot?
Yeah. Now, here's the problem with this segment. We either have to side with an umpire or side with a Houston Astro. So which one do we pick?
I don't think Altuve was wrong.
No, he wasn't. I did think it was hilarious.
He wasn't even like being a dick, really. So the play was Altuve was in the box. He fouled the ball off his foot. It rolled in fair territory down the third base line. The Padres convert the out. Umpire calls it a fair ball. Altuve's like, no, it hit off my foot. Manager comes out to try and defend him. Altuve then, in an effort to prove his point, takes off his cleat and his sock to show the bruise on his foot from where the ball hit. The umpire takes one look at his foot, Brennan Miller, and tosses him out of the game.
I did think it was something that he fully took off his sock.
Well, how else was he supposed to prove it?
I don't know. But did he think by taking off his sock and showing him his bare foot that was going to change the umpire's mind?
Well, with a reasonable umpire, maybe.
Well, umpires and reasonable? Yeah, that's new.
Did Brennan Miller seem very secure? No. Probably because he saw the contusion and realized he messed up, and the best way to solve the problem, as all umpires know, is to throw the guy out of the game. It doesn't matter if he was right or not.
Get him right off the field. See you, buddy.
See you, buddy. Can't argue anymore.
Yeah, you can go hit
first.
Yeah, you
never
can go
seen
hit
that
the shower.
before.
No, yeah, he said Altuve can go hit the showers, is what he said. Do we not have to give an honorable mention to the moron that was behind the plate in the Wednesday Mariners-Yankees game? Which, by the way,
pretty bad.
Most of those calls were actually in the Mariners' favor. The Mariners had a couple that went against them, but I mean, it was next level bad in that game. Who was the home plate? Oh, it was Jim Wolf. That's who it was. I didn't even check his umpire scorecard today yet. I'm guessing it was terrible.
Did we check into the Michael K show today to see what his reaction was?
No. I don't think we
probably
did.
should do that. Probably should do that after we're done recording.
Yeah, I'm down.
If there's anyone who has no filter when it comes to calling people out, it'd be him.
Yeah. While we're still sitting here on this segment, I gotta find Wolf's scorecard because it has to be so bad. And hand up, I should have looked before we even started the show, but now that we're on the topic of talking about it, I have to. Oh my God. Yeah, I found it. There's like it's like all over the place. I mean, he was
and he was slow calling balls and strikes.
Yeah. Like he had all his missed calls on balls and strikes. There was here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 missed balls and strikes calls. He gave the Mariners. So imagine this. The Mariners still lost last night by scoring 1 run, but he gave the Mariners 1.66 runs last night.
So Jim Wolf outscored the Mariners.
Yeah.
So the Mariners would have scored negative runs if not for him.
Yeah. If they had a good umpire behind the plate, negative runs.
Wow. We're talking about firsts. Talking about things that only this franchise could do. That checks out.
Uh-huh.
Negative runs.
Yeah. Well, we've spoke our mind a lot on this podcast already, but let's get to it. Let's get to speak your mind. Is there anything else you would like to talk about this week?
I want to give a shout out to Geno Smith. I can't believe there were like 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, there were actual conversations about Sam Howell being in competition for the Seahawks starting quarterback job. I mean, are we serious? Like sitting back, how refreshing was it to like kind of sit there and watch Geno operate last Sunday against the Pats? How great was that? That was great. Russell Wilson had some just amazing years as a Seahawk and amazing quarterback performances doing things that Geno can't do, frankly, because of his legs. But the way Geno sat there last Saturday with no running game, a crummy offensive line, a defense that was getting absolutely chewed up on the ground, and for Geno to just sit back there in like total control, manipulate the pocket, threw 44 passes with 0 inaccurate throws. I mean, come on.
It's pretty good. People wanted Sam Howell to start instead.
And now instead, Geno's ranked as like a top 10 quarterback in football. You know who's going to have to open the checkbook in the offseason if Geno makes it the next 15 weeks like this, Lyle? Jody Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Open up the checkbook. Screw the $40 million. When we filled in for Brock and Salk, I think, what was the idea? We threw out the Kirk Cousins contract. That was 45? Right? Was it 45?
Something like that. But yeah, now if he has a season like this, he's just going to get paid the going rate of quarterbacks, which is in the 50s.
It's going to go over 50. Yep. And it's hard to build a roster like that, but how can you blame Geno? He's played incredible. And he's doing this in his 30s, too.
Yeah. And the Seahawks cannot afford to let him go because this quarterback class upcoming in 2025 is terrible. You're also probably going to be good enough where you're not going to have a very high pick. So what do? Hey, you can't like again, he's been way too good. You got to keep him. And this does make things interesting for the Seahawks because it's not all going to happen at once, but you're going to have to pick and choose who you prioritize with contracts because there are going to be guys that are going to be worth it. Charles Cross keeps this up with how amazing he's looked through 2 weeks at left tackle this year. I mean, you have to pay him. You can't let your left tackle go, especially if you've got an elite left tackle. Left tackles are really hard to find. After Walter Jones and especially after Russell Okung left, Seahawks struggled with that for a long time. I mean, okay, and then they found Dwayne Brown too, but think about all the years they didn't have a solidified guy there. It was brutal. You can't let a left tackle go, especially somebody as young as Cross. So you got him. Sure, you're going to have to pay Devin Witherspoon at some point. Boy, Mafe keeps this up. You're probably going to have to pay him. Obviously, this is all factoring in Geno to you. You're going to have to pick and choose your spots because there's going to be guys that you have to keep.
A lot of very hard decisions coming up.
Yeah.
But at least they won't have to make those this season because this legitimately might be the only season, depending on what happens in the offseason, of course, that you can have, think of having all of these pieces together at once. I mean, we're talking, let's say, Geno, Mike McDonald, Ryan Grubb, who, by the way, if he keeps it up, he's not going to be far away from a head coaching position if he takes this offense and just lights things on fire. Would not be that far away if that's something he wants. Like Mafe, Witherspoon, Cross. It is going to be very hard to keep all of these pieces together with the Seahawks, which is why this year is so important now.
Yeah.
It's like this is the only time all these fun young pieces are going to be A, cheap, but B, together at the same time. Yeah. So, cool. I just want to get a shout out. I've watched more breakdowns on Geno's performance on Sunday against the Pats than I have in a while. And just, the advanced nature of it, it really just blows my mind. The fact, this guy was a backup for, a decade, and he is doing these things. This stuff, does not happen, really.
Mm-hmm.
As a quarterback, you have it or you don't. Pretty quick. Ask Bryce Young. Do you have it or you don't?
Well,
and Geno and
the Panthers are a pretty bad org. I bet you there's a chance Bryce could go somewhere else and be good.
That's fair. Like, Bryce is lacking at the physical tools, and Geno showed that you can be terrible early in a crummy organization like the Jets, go somewhere else, and thrive. It's possible. But it's not easy in the NFL.
I love the
and
Geno
Geno's
story.
making it look really easy.
I love the Geno story. He's been one of my favorite Seahawks in a long time just because of the whole redemption thing, how good he's been, the fact he's now commanded respect from around the league. Oh, and paired with we don't have to watch anybody now fake warm up with cameras on or do high knees on the plane or call yourself Mr. Unlimited or tell your defense to yell run or pass, all that stuff.
What about a Subway sandwich?
Oh, his Subway sandwich. I forgot about the Danger Witch. And then, like having eye black and shoulder pads on in a dome in week 1 when you're inactive. All that. I don't miss any of that.
And he's still not starting this week, too, right? It's Fields.
Did they officially announce it's Fields again?
Well, Fields was practicing this week.
Yeah, then probably.
Did Russ wear shoulder pads week 2?
He did. And again, I think it's because of the whole emergency QB thing, but even still,
I didn't know you. I thought you had to be. You can be inactive and be the emergency quarterback.
I guess. I think that's a new rule in the league this year. Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing's still ridiculous.
If there was no emergency quarterback, I think Russ would still wear shoulder pads.
Same.
And eye black.
Same. Yeah. Well. Yeah, I was trying to even think of something non-sports related to talk about for Speak Your Mind. I mean, the things in my head are the fact ASU somehow magically 3-0 in football, which is sports related. I don't know how. I mean, yes, they were favored in a couple of those games, but
all three of them.
I just don't have much.
Specific.
I mean, Kenny Dillingham's pretty inspiring and all that. I just don't have a ton of faith in the talent of this roster outside of Scattaboo, but. I don't know. I guess
I filled in that they have the second most talented roster in their conference.
Do you actually think that?
That's what it says.
Who had that again?
24/7.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I guess that shows the Big 12's pretty bad. But
now recruiting rankings are not perfect.
Yeah,
but results have backed up. They go on the road and win week 1. Or week 1 of conference.
Mm-hmm.
That'll certainly show you a lot. I'll say this college football season's been a little weird.
It's been boring.
It's boring, weird. Hey, Notre Dame had a huge win over Purdue. Good win for them to bounce back. Have we mentioned on this podcast you're a Notre Dame fan?
I feel like we have at some point. Yeah, so I grew up a pretty big fan. I would say it's waned a little bit in recent years. One, I feel like now more than ever, the Mariners just take up so much energy. Well, and the Seahawks do too. The Mariners and Seahawks both take up so much energy as it is, paired with I don't know, I've thought, I grew up such a huge fan, and I was a huge fan in college, all that stuff. And I still watch the games, but I'm not tied down to every win and loss anymore, paired with while it would probably never happen, I have had real thoughts now. If ASU was to play Notre Dame in a national title, again, this is a total hypothetical. I don't know if that would ever happen, but if that were to ever happen, would I really root against all our friends when, this is what makes being a fan of your school often as an alumni so fun is, all your friends come together for all these years moving forward to go to all these games and watch all these games together and tailgate and be fans. And I'm sure all our friends, if they were ever in a game like that, would make a trip out of it. And if they were playing Notre Dame in a big game like that, I thought to myself, would I really be the one that roots against my alma mater and was against all my friends or whatever? It's yeah, I don't think I'd do that. So yeah, I still like to watch Notre Dame football, but I would root for ASU over them to put that to bed at this point. And I still like it. It's just waned a little. So
you didn't break a TV when you
No.
lost to Northern Illinois?
No, I was honestly kind of sitting there and chuckling.
Well, I think you and our friend Andrew could agree on them losing for the first time ever then at that point. If only Notre Dame played a tougher schedule.
Yeah, if only.
It seems like scheduling Northern Illinois at home is just too much for the Irish.
It's tough. After losing to Marshall 2 years ago too at home. I mean, look, every team plays cupcakes. Bama plays a stupid game at the end of the year every year too. So does Clemson. So do a bunch of teams. But
there's still teams playing cupcakes this week. It's week 4. I can't believe that.
sad.
See, this is why I think college football loses some people. There are just so many uninteresting games. The NFL does not have one single uninteresting week.
Right.
Not a single one. But college football mails in a quarter to a third of their schedule every single year.
Yeah. It's true. Also, I feel like last thing, if I was going to pick one non-sports thing, I still feel like I need some new music. There hasn't been a lot of new music out recently.
Well, I think this is just part of our evolution of artists. Is it not?
No, I still listen to a lot of hip hop. There hasn't been a lot of new albums out.
But the prime of the artists we, were in college listening to don't release as often now. They're not in their primes. Would you say Travis Scott is in his prime still? I would say no.
No, Lil Uzi doesn't make as many albums anymore. I mean,
No.
I'm a big Don Toliver fan. He still makes a lot of music.
Mm-hmm. Who else? Post Malone's all over the place. He's a country artist now.
Right.
So, I would say, is he out of his prime? That's a difficult question. Is he the same? No,
Yeah.
He's not. So stuff like that. I don't know. I've kind of evolved. I just I'll listen to music depending on my mood. I still have a lot of my hip hop playlist, but I also have different driving, I guess, ideas.
You said you listen to house music a lot, right?
Yeah, house music. I'll listen to some Coldplay. I'll listen to some, yeah. It's pretty much that trio of
All right.
stuff. So it evolves a little bit. It doesn't always have to be new. I would like some new prime Travis Scott. That'd be great, but I don't think that's ever coming again. So I just kind of set my expectation to that.
That's fair. Or I guess you just have to find whoever the new popular hip hop artists are. I just feel like there's not one that stands above everybody else right now.
Right.
That's
Well, hey, there's a Juice WRLD album coming up in a couple months. That I'm excited about.
Yeah, I mean, he's still, I guess, wildly enough, got a lot of unreleased music. So
He's got. I know he had thousands of unreleased songs in the past. So,
well,
be nice as the world's #1 Juice WRLD fan. I'm not going to complain.
sure. All right, so there's one non-baseball thing, or one non-sports thing. Well, hopefully people made it through that episode. Hopefully you made it through all of our ranting and raving. We needed it. We needed an outlet today. So thanks for bearing with us, people. I'm going to guess a lot of you feel the same way. So again, hopefully we resonated with a lot of you on this one. So,
Well, someone's going to find a way to call us a Jerry Bootlicker in the comments. So, to whoever that is, if you manage to come away from this episode with that, shout out to you, man. You're one of a kind.
Yeah, we commend you. All right. That'll just about wrap up this edition of the Marine Layer podcast. You guys know the drill. You want to listen to the full form pod, you can do so wherever you get your audio podcasts. Make sure to download. Make sure to rate and review 5 stars. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. The best way you can support us, hit subscribe on YouTube. Seriously, you're doing us a big favor. And then follow us on social media. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube Shorts, @Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.